The Influencer's Edge is brought to you by the Rapid Sales Accelerator. If you're ready to skyrocket your sales by 30% or more in just 90 days, then you need to claim your free training right now. You'll learn 4 words that will compel your prospects to trust you like they were children within the first 3 to 5 minutes of any conversation across any platform and any medium. You'll learn how to give your prospects objection amnesia, to crush objections like, I need to talk to my spouse, or I need more time to think it over, or it's too expensive. And finally, you'll get a free recorded audio training that will install unbelievable attitudes for success and wipe out any limiting beliefs. So if you'd like to claim your free training now, go to www.paulrossbook.com. Do it before your competition does it now. Welcome to the Influencer's Edge. This is the place where you come to get the latest breakthroughs, cutting-edge insights, tools, and techniques to leapfrog over the pack in sales, persuasion, and influence. Be sure you visit our website at www.theinfluencersedge.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now sit back, tune in, and enjoy today's episode. Welcome to the Influencer's Edge. We are back with another amazing guest. This is going to be one who will probably confuse the hell out of me, but not because he's not good at what he does or discussing it, but because the topic he discusses makes my head spin. And this is going to be really fun as a result of it. So let's welcome Mark Petruzzi. Did I pronounce your last name right?
You did perfectly.
Fantastic. It is, like me, it's a great Jewish name.
Exactly.
Okay, Mark, I'm going to read a little bit of your biography. I should say right away, Mark is an expert on, just without reading the bio on my phone here, Mark is an expert on data-driven sales and AI. One of them makes my eyes cross. The other one I'm heavily interested in. So we'll go into this. So let me read a portion of your bio. So Mark Petruzzi has worked in the enterprise software and cloud software ecosystem for 25 years. Stop right there. 25 years means you started when you were 12, because you're a very young man.
I wish, Paul. I totally wish.
So whenever I talk to a guest who's been in a career that long, everyone always says, how'd you get started? How'd you get started? But I'm sure that's, for you, that's boring as batshit. By the way, we're not a family show. You can say, we don't care here. So 25 years is a long time to stay interested in something. So what has kept you interested and passionate about your career after 25 years?
Well, Paul, I think the easiest part of that question is just how quickly this market has moved and evolved and gone up and then gone down during those 25 years, that it hasn't been the same for more than a couple of weeks at a time. So I think that's helps. Having a focus on sales, having a focus on go-to-market, also makes it easier, because, as you well know, when you're selling, you're getting to interact with people, and that brings the good, the bad, and the ugly. And fortunately, it's a lot more of good than anything else.
So Mark, you've been at this for 25 years, and everyone always asks, how did you get started? Which to me is a batshit boring question. People ask me that. I don't want to hear it. What has kept you passionate in a career that's gone 25 years?
Well, Paul, I think it's been easier than most careers, and that's mainly because it's a market that changes consistently and constantly. Especially when you look at, I started my career in the core of the enterprise software space, and these were when the Oracles and SAPs of the world kind of were just getting their legs and growing very rapidly. And these were large deals, very complex deals. But it's went through 7 or 8 iterations over that core enterprise period. And then the big change happened, and that's when Mark Benioff left Oracle to start Salesforce, and he built this whole approach on cloud software and SaaS, software as a
Can
service.
you just for a minute, because many of my viewers are my audience are not familiar with these terms. I know what software as a service is. You can unpack that, but what is cloud? What did you call it? Cloud what?
Cloud software is just software that is now running in a cloud environment and no longer on a company server. So they would typically in the past buy the product, put it on their own server, and run the software. Then with the advent of Salesforce, it turned into more of a cloud server service that everyone in an organization would run it off of their internet, just like we're running this call today.
Which enables higher ups management to spy on everything they're doing, their keystrokes, all of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, it does do that. One thing
I
that
would
we
do
really,
that. I would want to see what games they're playing, what naughty sites they're going to.
yeah, no, there's been a lot of that. The cool thing that happened though is these contracts were not one-time contracts any longer. They became reoccurring contracts. So the good companies really figured out they now have to take care of their customers and they have to make sure that they keep retaining those customers. So that made some really cool changes in my world, and it's been a wild but really rewarding
Which were the
ride.
ones, if I could, Mark, which were the ones that were most difficult for you to adapt to or to adopt to? And was that because the technology was difficult to grasp or for some other personal reason?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll give you both sides of that
Mm-hmm.
equation. What was more difficult, and then maybe what really kind of fed to some of my career progression as well. The most difficult part of it was the earlier days when there was this gunslinger approach to selling, where the best sales reps were individuals that were very efficient. They go in, they close the deals, and they learn to run away super fast from the client at that point and never to
Sounds
be
like
found
my
again.
sounds like my style of dating.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, mine as well, many years ago. Um, but when it comes down to it, that was harder for me, especially because I did a lot of work on the consulting side. So we had to stay with the mess and we had to fix the mess. What happens with SaaS, software as a service, what evolved then was those gunslingers couldn't run away anymore. And
Right.
a lot of them were in a situation that they were no longer able to be as successful as they were. And new types of mindsets and perspectives came into the sales force at that point, which was very much connected with my beliefs that, the best way to run a sales career, the best way to run a new prospect engagement is to look at it from a long-term perspective. And if you could do good things for clients over the long haul, you will be rewarded in your career. So that
Yeah.
was a good change for me.
I think that's also, and I would like to get your reflection on this because you're the guest. I'm the host. I think that's a reflection of a willingness to sort of slow down the sale and to really make it about building a relationship with a person as sees value in every transaction. So was that something, a mind shift you had to make for yourself, or have you always been in your approach to selling and life in general, someone who sees the value of a long-term relationship and building value over time?
Yeah, Paul, it is a core premise of what I wanted to do in my career. So the market came to me and moved towards my direction, which is always great when it does that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But what I've learned is that a lot of really good sales reps didn't have that same point of view and mindset. So as I moved into more leadership roles and running organizations and companies, I had to I had to understand that people didn't always look at it the same way I did. And the way I looked at it was not like this was this incredibly benevolent mindset. It wasn't like I always just wanted to do things for other people, although I always had that as baseline. I wanted to be successful, and I wanted to be successful over longer periods of time. And I've learned that if you do right by people and you work hard, you'll always have more people that and some of the same people that want to work with you. And as a sales leader, that's always great. You have the best of the business wanting to come and join your company. You have the best clients that you've had wanting to do business with you again. So the harder part in all that, Paul, was making sure I understood that people who didn't see it exactly my way,
Yeah.
how to explain it to them that it was still gonna benefit them, maybe not on the next deal, but over the next 10, 15
So
years of their career.
So, Mark, you, as much as you're involved in technology and AI and data driven, had to tune into your intuition and learn
Yes.
some soft skills and intuitively or observationally being able to say, this human being needs this approach to turn around their thinking. This person needs that. This person needs that. And that's not very data driven. That's very much
Oh.
intuitive part of your mind. Am I getting that correctly or is that
You
incorrect?
are. No, you are. And, it's really interesting. I've always had a quantitative background. I was an accounting undergrad. I was a finance MBA, right? So, that doesn't do much for you in general sales. So I always liked to see the data when I could see the data. But I really, really believed that sales was an art. Sales leadership was an art. It came down to gut reactions, came down to really reading people. And I still very much believe that. It's now moving more towards a science. And what that means to me, and it doesn't really have to change your leadership style, but it changes who you have around you. The way I look at it now is what you can do with data today and what you can do with artificial intelligence today. You need to have smart, really tech focused individuals as part of your team, usually in a position, what is called a revenue ops leader,
Yes.
revenue operations leader.
Where
So when you pull that type of individual into your team, you can really focus on the art side, which I still believe is key, but you can have the data that really tells you in black and white what's
can I
happening to your
can
market.
I push a pause button and
Would
maybe
love it.
put maybe I don't know if it's a pushback, but I have in my other career, which is teaching guys to pick up women,
Ah,
most of them were in the IT fields. They're
yep.
very digital thinkers. They tend to think in a linear way. They don't understand intuitive ways of thinking or emotional subtlety or any of that. So did you find a lot of the people you were working with had that? They're IT people, they're very digital. Some of them, and I'm not making fun, some of them are on the
Oh,
spectrum.
yep.
How did you apply communication skills with those people who may be data driven, but you can't necessarily use data to move them? Do you understand where I'm
I
moving?
do. I do, and I've learned through some very successful CEOs that I've worked with in technology that have shared with me personally that they are on the spectrum. So I appreciate your point of view, and I make no judgment
You
on
don't mean
this.
either.
Yeah, I know you don't. And matter of fact, if I make a judgment, it's a very positive judgment that I've seen this time and time again be be right on the path for exceptional success and exceptional, achievement because of being somewhat on that spectrum. But to your specific question, that another really exciting part of my career, it allows you to have real diversity in who you work with. And I'll
Yes.
give you a couple examples of that quickly. The There are some people in sales that just are, they're just personalities, right? They love being with people, they love doing things for people, and they really don't want to know too much about the data or the technology or what's happening behind the scenes. Just make it all fit. There you go. And that's incredible. And maybe that's also a way that has set up my career because I have about 50% of me is is really high on all those capabilities, and maybe even 60%. But then that other 40% has that technology side. So what does that allow me to do? It certainly allows me to work with individuals that have more of a quantitative focus, be able to give them that information when they need it. But it also it allows me, and it's interesting how this discussion's going. As much
I
as
told
I'm,
you, I
yeah,
warned you.
well, you said it. I love it. I love it, and I love where it's getting to as a message, because the message is data and AI. It's out there. It's hugely powerful, and I want to make sure that the clients I work with and the people I influence on my podcast and now yours are finding out about what you can do with data. And then we'll go a little deeper into AI in a second. Um, but what can be done with AI as well, while still not giving up and losing sight of how this is all about working with people. It's all about just doing right by individuals and listening and sharing ideas and perspectives. And so the art is still every bit still in place and very important.
I think to do your job, I would describe you as an amphibian. You're amphibious. You can live on the land of being data driven and in the water, which is a lot more flowing of dealing with human emotion and human decision making. You see, we barely got to your biography. I'll get back to it. Well, first, I'm fascinated by AI. Before I dive back into your biography, if at all, if it goes there, I don't know if it will. AI is personally fascinating to me. I have a venture, and I don't want to make this about me. I really don't.
But I want to hear about it too.
Nah,
Uh,
I have an AI that teaches men how to pick up and bed women. My female audience is like tuning out and unsubscribing and complaining
yep,
on all
yep.
the platforms right now. But a year ago, my business partner came to me and he said, "Right now, your Blockbuster video. Are you old enough to remember Blockbuster?"
Yeah,
No.
I am.
Okay, he
Yep.
said you can either be Blockbuster, or you can be Netflix. I said
Yeah.
I want to be Netflix. What are you talking about? He showed me the first version of Chat GPT. I looked at him. I said, "This is a joke, right? There's someone on the other end." He said, "No." So let's dive into artificial intelligence. First, give me your definition of it, because to say artificial intelligence, we need to define what intelligence is, which is another discussion that we would have to bring neuroscientists in and cognitive people. How do you define intelligence before we get to artificial?
Yeah. Well, being that I have a son who is a neuroscientist, and I am not a neuroscientist, I can give you, I think, an answer that will help the rest of us that don't have that level of training and understanding. Um, so what I think artificial intelligence is the ability to make good decisions through a technology product. Um, and good decisions in my focus area. My focus area is not helping individuals hook up like your AI product is. My I guess it's a different way of hooking up. Hooking up in a sales process is what I do. So from that perspective, what AI can clearly do today is take data, process that data, and be able to make predictions that are very,
Get
very highly accurate,
it. Predictive.
and able to now with that's predictive AI, and then now with generative AI, you can create things based on that data and that information as well.
Can you help me understand the distinction? Because again, I'm a visionary and a
Yep.
wildly disorganized. If I showed you my desk, people would unsubscribe. Can you help me understand the difference between a predictive AI model and one that prescriptive and predictive? Because again, for those of you in the audience, we had to stop recording because my cat came in and laid a turd in her box. But this same cat, when I took her in 2 years ago for a routine exam, the doctors, the vet came back to me and said the AI predicts within 2 years, there's a 98% chance she'll develop kidney failure. I said, what? AI? What are you talking about? They're using
Wow.
AI in veterinary medicine. And I know they're now using it to build better drugs and that sort of thing. So help me understand, first of all, the difference between those two and how those two apply to business.
Yeah, well, Paul, the first thing I have to apologize, it was about after 3 or 4 minutes of me speaking that your cat needed to go to the bathroom and lay that turd. So I apologize. I don't know if it was anything I said, but
No, cats do that.
I know, I know. So yeah,
This is a different
so
podcast. We're talking about laying turds and betting
we
with
are.
them today.
Yeah, that's you know what, but that's life. That's what people do, and I think it's great to do that, and I'm enjoying the time with you for sure. So to answer that question, I think well, there's a baseline. The baseline is this is all done through large language models. And
Mhm.
again, you don't need to be an IT expert or data scientist to understand. Just think of it of all the information you know that's in your brain. Well, that can be processed within a computer as well, and within a number of algorithms, which allows that data to predict things happening. That prediction for your cat, which sounds like it hasn't happened, which let's
Yes.
hope.
No, it is happening. It was
Oh
correct.
my goodness. Okay, that's even well. I was hoping it didn't happen for your
No, it's
cat because
happening.
I know you love your cat. We learned that already earlier as well. Um, so okay, that's even more interesting because that the ability for that prediction is better than gut reactions and hunches,
Yes.
because and the way I've learned that is in the world of forecasting. I've been working in the world of forecasting my whole career, but 6 or 7 years with AI technology. So AI is not new. Generative AI and ChatGPT, that's all about 18, 20 months old now. But predictive is not new. Predictive, as we talked about in generative, is is built on the same model, but the predictive side, it was figuring out how companies, when they start a quarter, what was the predicted value that this LLM, this large language model, predicts they're going to sell at the end of the quarter and
Right.
close. And as you can imagine, and that's very important for
Of course.
boards and companies and the stock market to know. Well, even 5 or 6 years ago was plus or minus 4%. And it was really a lot accurate. I have never been consistently plus or minus 4% of my forecast at the beginning
Oh,
of the year, right?
oh,
So that happened. That was great. That has gotten even better now. The generative side of AI takes all that data, Paul, and it turns it into something. It turns it into a beautiful picture. It turns it into a book, a story, 7 bullets about something. It does something which is really where the game changer is. Because think about it, and this is my whole premise on what I do with my clients. I am not looking to replace humans with AI. I am looking to replace part of the job that most humans have
yeah.
with AI, because the numbers from Salesforce as a company and Gartner Group, they did the same study about a year and a half ago, and they came out with almost the exact number that approximately 70% of a sales rep's day was focused on things that were not selling.
So
They were
yes,
filling
yes,
materials in their
of course,
CRM. Yep.
of
So
course.
if you can take the repetitive, monotonous, non-strategic work and replace that with AI and allow humans to be more strategic and proactive, that's a game changer. And with the products and companies I work with, it is a game changer. Every day we change the market.
I think the analogy would be when industrialization came along and the assembly line came along, it enabled to it and the sewing machine and et cetera, it took away people's jobs in a sense, but it also took all the drudgery and did that work so people could be freed up to do other things. But
Yes.
again, I still don't get the distinction between generative and prescriptive. For example, the AI that predicted my cat's kidney failure
Yep.
didn't give the best treatment plan. The vet did that. And the vet was guessing. The
Yep.
vet, I had to go and search for other possible solutions. And the ones I found that seemed to be best were from a website called Two Crazy Cat Ladies. So tell me about the ability to, do you in any way work with, or is there even such a thing as prescriptive AI that says, based on this data, here's the path that we should follow?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but that term isn't usually used. It's usually more around predictive AI
Okay.
and generative. And the only difference here would be the predictive AI would give you that prediction that the vet would look at to say it's 98% likely that there's going to be kidney failure. What a generative AI model would then do, it would say, if you do X, Y, Z and prescribe these things, either you can delay that, or
Right.
when it happens, here's what you do to make your cat
Got
have
it.
a longer life from there. That's the only difference between the two.
So when you go into, tell me a little bit more about the role you play.
Yeah.
So you go into a company. Oh, let me back up. I had a question in my mind as you were describing the role of AI and predictive, and its role in predicting revenue and that sort of thing. I will push back with one little thing, and that is chaos theory. Chaos theory comes along and says sometimes it's the smallest little input that will have a massive effect on the system, and also black swan events. You know what a black swan event
I
is?
sure do.
COVID was a black swan event.
Yeah,
So was there some AI out there that said, watch out for this, this is coming? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I
How is
do.
AI going to blend with black swan and the unpredictability of the world?
Yeah, it's incredible what it's doing already. And I'll give you a very specific example. There's a company called Collective I, the word collective, the letter I.com. It is run by a CEO, an incredible individual, Stephen Messer, who sold the company, him and his sister Heidi, and they had, as far as I understand, zero debt, no VC investors. So they did very well on that
Yeah,
last company.
I can see
They
it.
put a big portion of that income into this new large language model that they've been building for now probably 7 years. Um, with what they can do there is they are predicting the forecasting that I was describing. So they can predict the forecast, and they are predicting to some extent what black swan events are most likely to occur next.
Ah, I
And
want to
certain,
know, what
yeah,
are
and
they?
yeah, and certainly when a black swan event happens, they have data that shows how that usually affects purchase decisions. So, for example, the second that the IDF, Israeli Defense Force, went into the Gaza Strip after Hamas, there was immediate impacts to the forecast across their entire client base that they felt that with that kind of an event happening, wasn't like the whole world, they didn't predict the whole world was going to change, but they predicted very quickly that for the next 3 to 6 weeks, deals were going to stop. Like companies that were about to sign something were going to
Really?
say yes, and they were going to
Involved
say
were these companies involved in the military or defense sectors, or
there.
not?
I mean, there was different impacts to different levels. So yes, there were probably some that had a like a complete stalling. There were others that thought companies were going to just pull back a little bit, maybe lower their budgets, not knowing what was going to happen. All these things come into
Wow.
play. And again, are they 100% accurate? No. Are they 98% accurate most of the time? Yes. So when it comes down to a plus or minus 2% is a game changer to me. God bless you.
Yes, it is. If I could go to Vegas and have a little AI tell me 3%, 4% on the house playing
Yes,
blackjack, which I can't play, I'd walk out of there with a lot of money before they
sure
grabbed me
would.
into an alley and broke my legs.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's jump into something. And you notice we haven't even gone into your biography beyond a couple of sentences because I don't care about the bios. I care about the person. This is what the audience cares about. People think of AI as being HAL in 2001, a intelligence that can think on its own, that is self-aware. I don't know if you're an expert enough on this to make a prediction or even discuss it. Do you see that coming? Artificial intelligence that is able to teach itself new things that are not programmed in? And how far away do you see that being?
You know what? So I am not a deep technical expert, but I know enough to know that it teaches itself already.
I
So
know.
these large language models, they are doing things on their own. Not, and I'm not saying they're creating an alien force that is going to be attacking us.
That would
I'm
be
just
cool.
yeah, it would be interesting for sure. But it does have that ability to learn and get smarter, and that's really the where the words intelligence really do have a meaning, and I think they're accurate. Now, where does it go from here? 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? I have no idea. I mean, and actually there are probably very few people that even would make a prediction on that because it's there's so many variables that are going to create that come into play. But what I do know is, or I believe this is a game-changing technology.
Yes.
Um, and I think that it's a technology that from a business perspective, the clients that I work with is almost all good if managed in the right way. It's not this is not something to worry about yet. And there's lots of other things to worry about if you want to worry about things in the world. Uh, nowadays,
I'm
I
sure.
guess.
I'm just thinking, I'm old enough to remember the introduction of the internet for the
Yeah,
general pop. And I did a lot of internet marketing. I still do. The marketing I started out in 1989, I'm giving away my age, 1990. We were still communicating being over phone bridges and through snail mail and live events. And there
yeah,
were arguments back and forth. Is this a trend? Is this a fad? Should we market and sell on the internet? We advised caution. One guru said, let's be cautious. It could be a fad, et cetera, et cetera. And no one could see it. And my personal view and that of my partner in the AI for our bed women AI, God, I'm going to
yeah.
get so much flack for this, but I don't care. We are having this discussion. I have a one prediction. I want to ask you this, and then I want to move on to a couple other things. And thank you for sharing more time than is plotted. I
Awesome,
deeply appreciate
awesome.
you. When
Yeah.
the internet came along, everyone said this is the information highway, but so much of the internet is now dedicated to porn and cats. So
That's true.
I'm just curious how much of AI will become yet another focus sucker and another distraction from the things that are really important in life. But this is not I just want your personal opinion. This is not your
Yeah.
job, but you know this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I do, I do have a really good vantage point on how it's being levered. So I think that's a good perspective to share. And I think that like everything else, it will be used for good and bad, right? It will be levered in very productive things, and it will be levered in ways that force us to waste even more time than we waste when we're looking at our Facebook and
Yeah,
Instagram and
it's
everything else.
destroyed focus.
Yeah, so there's like it's gonna be equivalent. The thing I really like about it is I guess in some ways more even the predictive value than the generational value, the
Generate.
generating aspect, that generative value. And here's why. It again in business and where I'm focused is to be able to predict things that are going to happen, to be able to be a chess move or two and be in
Yeah,
front of your competition
absolutely.
and even in front of your client, and not in a bad way, like just to kind of have you have this experience is amazing, right? So you experience, that So the clients are likely going to do this next, but to have a little bit of data showing this to you and being like, hey, with 97% accuracy, this is going to be what's
That's
happen next.
fantastic.
That's
That's
fantastic.
fantastic. What an advantage, as
Yeah,
opposed to models that have no scientific background. What is this model? ENFTJ, that model. What
yeah.
do they call that? Myers-Briggs.
The Myers-Briggs. Yeah.
That was actually made up by two women on their kitchen table, and that's no bullshit. You can
Wow.
look at that.
I didn't know that, but
Mark,
that's
we
incredible.
have not even gone into your biography. Is there anything I ought to ask you about the technical side of what you do that I have not? Is frankly, I'm transparent about with my guests a lot of this technical stuff and the data stuff. And when you told me you took accounting, I got a D- in accounting. The professor said, "Why are you here?" Because I literally fell asleep in class. What is it that I should have asked you that I just didn't because I became so engrossed and fascinated and drawn in by the human that you are?
Yeah, well, no, I appreciate the questions you did ask, and I love how you bring in your neuro-linguistic and
Neuro.
cognitive neuro-linguistic side and your cognitive side to this
Oh, I
equation.
didn't do that.
Oh,
I would
yes, you
never
did.
do that.
I love it. I really appreciate that aspect of it. But I will say, what the one thing maybe we can close on is just how I bring with my organization. I've launched a company called Accelerate Growth Solutions. Website is get-ags.com. And it's a company that we work with clients in the go-to-market side, which is predominantly the sales, marketing, rev ops side of these organizations. And we find ways to bring in these strategic points of view that comes from our experience. So again, one of the other things I've been really fortunate to be a part of is I've been able to do work with some of the biggest McKinsey, Bain, BCG consulting firms in what's called an expert advisor type role, which means just working with some of the most successful technology companies mainly on the planet. So having that experience, but then turning this into more of a, we do at AGS these 45 to 75 day sprints. We come in, we focus on a key area of what is the full funnel. And that's also on the website. It's a bow tie. And it shows really, if you look at the website, it shows how we look at selling nowadays versus how we used to 2, 3, 5 years ago. So the core of that is we bring that expertise in and we turn it into 45, 75 day executable modules where we're in there and we're actually bringing a strategic idea and we're testing it on the market. Testing
Right.
it meaning selling that product and that approach and taking that information back and all the data, and then we evolve and iterate from there. That's the stuff that I love doing the most, and I love doing that for clients, and that's why we built this company.
I have two final questions. First question, how do people stay in the conversation with you? Because you're an amazing guest and you've given us tons of knowledge today and things to really chew on cognitively and other ways. How do people stay in the conversation with you, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can reach out on LinkedIn. I do my best to be very responsive. That started with our first book 4 years ago, Selling the Cloud, when I had all these new friends that read the book and reached out, and I've always made sure to keep time in my schedule to do that, because as much as I convey knowledge and ideas, I learned so much from these individuals as well. So LinkedIn's a great way to do it. The other thing is our website that I just described, because we have blogs that are going out each week. And I also have a podcast called Selling the Cloud that I'd love to
Oh,
have you
cool.
on at some point to really
Well,
talk
we
about.
would talk about the role of hypnosis and the rest and seduce to sell, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
basically my approach. Here's my final question. How do we know that you're not an AI version of Mark Petruzzi? And how do I know that you're not an AI?
Well, you were perfect to ask that, because I am, and that's what this is. No, that is I don't know how you know, because there's
Uh-huh.
really no way to know. Yeah, I don't think there's any way to prove it,
I could be
but
AI. We don't
you
know.
could
We
be
could be
too.
two AIs talking to each other.
And probably in a couple of years, that's what we're going to have.
Now
Um,
put me out of a job.
yeah, exactly. I guess the way to tell here in this model is, when it really comes down to that point, like when you look at what I can do for your audience and what I will do as a human, it will be different and more than what an AI could ever do. And
Oh,
that's the difference. So I guess, that's the only way for us to tell. And the beauty of it is humans aren't going anywhere anytime soon. And I don't think AI is going anywhere anytime soon. So
no,
we better
no.
get used to living and working together.
I love that. On that note, Mark, stay with me in the green room. Thank you, Mark. You've been a fabulous guest, as was told me by humans, not AI. Thank you all, The Influencer's Edge. I know this has enlightened you and that I, not Mark, have offended you. And if I have, great. And we'll see you on the next episode of The Influencer's Edge. Bye now.
The Influencer's Edge is brought to you by the Rapid Sales Accelerator. If you're ready to skyrocket your sales by 30% or more in just 90 days, then you need to claim your free training right now. You'll learn 4 words that will compel your prospects to trust you like they were children within the first 3 to 5 minutes of any conversation across any platform in any medium. You'll learn how to give your prospects objection amnesia, to crush objections like, I need to talk to my spouse, or I need more time to think it over, or it's too expensive. And finally, you'll get a free recorded audio training that will install unbelievable attitudes for success and wipe out any limiting beliefs. So if you'd like to claim your free training now, go to www.paulrossbook.com. Do it before your competition does it now. Thank you for tuning in to the Influencer's Edge, where you get the latest breakthroughs, cutting-edge insights, tools, and techniques so you can leapfrog over the pack in sales, influence, and persuasion. Remember to visit our website at www.theinfluencersedge.com to enjoy even more great episodes like this one. We look forward to seeing you again on the Influencer's Edge Show.